I'm Mel Albin. I'm the host and the founder of the Jazz Confusion
My
Power
name is
Hour.
Dion Parson, and I'm honored to share my passion of music with you, our listening audience, through my cultural heritage.
Things can change for you too. If you want to be brand new, that is absolutely possible.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Jazz Confusion Power Hour. I'm your host, Mel Albin, inviting you back for another evening of wonderful jazz, and we have a very special artist for you tonight. For those of you that are new to this station, let me tell you a little bit about the Jazz Confusion Power Hour and a little bit about SourceTVRadio.com. The Power Hour was created, I created it because I thought there was really a gap between the music people listen to and knowledge about the artists who create it. So I decided to create a show so that you hear not only the music, but the story behind the music. You go behind the mind and get to know more about the artist, and also you learn about the business of the music industry, which is not always peaches and cream. It's not always rosy. So we take you backstage into the daily life of the artist who painstakingly devote their magic to make the music that we love. It's truly a labor of love. The Power Hour broadcasts weekly on the Source TV radio network. We're an adult, non-commercial radio station, and we support both jazz and also Source promotes Black minority micro businesses to help them build scale so they can get on the finance industry radar and ultimately create and increase the generational transfer of wealth within the family and within the community. So Source is dependent because we're a nonprofit on both contributions and sponsors. We depend on you, our listening audience, and also the artists who appear on our broadcast so we can mutually support each other to keep jazz alive and well. So your donations and your contributions to Source are greatly appreciated. And remember, they're always tax deductible. Now, the Power Hours had over 125 amazing artists, well known and becoming well known, musicians and vocalists. And occasionally we have a manager or a promoter on our show too to explain the business of music in this country. Some of the artists on the Power Hour have been Eric Robeson, Mesa, Brian Culbertson, Paul Brown, Raheem Devon, Reagan Whiteside, Alex Harris, Greg Adams, and East Bay Soul, Tom Brown, Eric Darius, Pieces of a Dream, Kamasi Washington, Kiko Matsui, Kim Scott, Cheryl Crow, Billy Ocean, Annie Lennox, Dwelle, Maria Antoinette, Samara Joy, her. Um, I can go on and on. We've had Terry Wollman, we've had Mavis Swan Poole, we've had Jeff Beck, Eric Burden, and Dion Parsons, to name just a few. So that gives you an idea of the range of the kind of jazz and jazz crossover music that we play and we bring you through the Jazz Confusion Power Hour each and every Thursday night. Now, tonight's no exception. We have an exceptional artist with us tonight. Tonight's guest has performed in many of the major concert halls throughout the United States, including Carnegie Hall, Constitution Hall, Lincoln Center, and the Kennedy Center. She's a musician, composer, and businesswoman who handles all of her own bookings, negotiating and management of her band. She performed with icon Stevie Wonder in New York City to honor the legendary Hal Jackson on his 97th birthday. She has performed for two sitting presidents. She's been featured in the New York Times, Ebony, Black Enterprise, Essence, has been a featured guest on the Today Show, Emerald Live, and she also has written a cookbook. She has co-hosted and performed on 8 shows for BET TV. She's released 6 CDs, with the first song going to #1 on BRE and Black Excellence charts. Her music reached top 10 in Billboard magazine. Her fourth LP, Life is Love and Love is You, features the late Grover Washington Jr., saxophonist Najee, guitarist Norman Brown, and the late award-winning vocalist John Lucian and Bobby Lyle, and his wonderfully powerful keyboard solo. She has worked as director of jazz promotion at Columbia, Arista, Elektra Records. She has promoted well-known artists, including artists like Grover Washington Jr., Wynton and Branford Marsalis, Harry Connick Jr., Nancy Wilson, Ramsey Lewis, to name a few. She's opened for Sinbad, John Legend, Vanessa Williams, ELC, Grover Washington, Gerald Albright, Ramsey Lewis. I can go on with the people that she's opened for. So, with that kind of background and that kind of music talent, and one of the finest flutists currently in the jazz idiom, I want you to welcome tonight our special guest, Miss Sherry Winston.
Well, good evening, Mel. How are you?
I'm fine, Sherry. How are you doing?
I'm doing terrific today.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I met you through a mutual friend and a person who hosts his own show on Sauce, Dion Parson. And you had been a guest on his show, and I immediately wanted you on my show. So thank you.
I feel honored that I did well enough for you to want me on your personal show.
Well, it was a no-brainer, believe me. Let's start off with telling everybody what's going on in 2025. Do you have any singles you've been releasing or performances? What's doing?
I am practicing like the devil. I've got something coming up in White Plains next week for the city of White Plains. And I'm actually doing a duo with my keyboard player, which is going to be somewhat, what's the word for it? Challenging. I'm so spoiled that I'm used to working with, of course, my bass player and a drummer, and sometimes a singer. So just to really scale down the whole group to the two of us, it's like you're totally exposed. It's like every note is going to count. I can't take a breath and just let someone else, take the show over for a while, because I've got a bass player that's just amazing. And if you point to him, he could take a 10-minute solo with no problem. My keyboard player can do the same, and all of my guys. And then you sort of feed off each other, all the different instruments, the sounds. When you've got the bass player and the drums playing, you can get that funky vibe. When you've got just two people, you're really wearing out your keyboard player, because he's got to really have that left hand working so that you're feeling the groove, you're feeling the beat, and you're getting inspired. So it's going to be a challenge to do that next week.
That sounds great. It's similar to when you're a background singer and suddenly you become a soloist. I mean, suddenly you're exposed in front of everybody.
Well, as the leader of the group, it's always tag your it. But there's a certain camaraderie on stage when you're with 4 or 5, when there are 4 or 5 of you. And I guess the worst thing is playing the tracks and it's just tag your it, period. You have no one else with you. And sure. I had a situation where my keyboard player had a problem and someone passed away in his family. So the night before, he had to cancel with me. And I went crazy. I mean, I was calling up every pianist in my Rolodex trying to find someone, mostly people that I've worked with that would have some idea what I sound like. And then I got really desperate and started calling keyboard players, friends of friends and of other musicians who knew nothing about me, my music, my style. And I still couldn't find anybody. It was like last minute. So I called up my bass player and I said, Steve, it's just going to be you and me tonight. And that's it. So I'm going to bring tracks and you and I are going to play the tracks. And this was like a big hotel in New York. And it was a big organization that was having a conference. And we were the first night of the conference. So it was a lot of pressure there. And we did fine. And we were both jumping around the stage, which is what I love to do. And moving back and forth and trying to act like a big band with just the two of us. Nobody seemed to notice, which I found very amusing. So,
but sometimes, desperation is the mother of invention, and you pull things off that you never expect the audience would go for, and they love it. You just never know.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I'm just curious also. Um, I'd like people to know more about how you became an artist, not just a composer, songwriter, a musician. How did you come to the flute? Was there music in your household when you were a kid? Where did you grow up? What city were you born in? I want people to get a background on who you are.
I grew up in Corona, Queens, one of the boroughs of New York, and went to local schools there. We had music in our house all the time. My dad was a professional musician,
Ah,
but as many musicians, he could not earn a living enough to support a family of four. I have a brother, an older brother. So, oh my God, my poor dad was also a postman during the day, and then he would get these gigs at night. So he would have to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and be schlepping mail around all day long on his route, which he actually loved doing. He had a good rapport with his people that he delivered mail to. And this was pre having postmen, get in trucks and go around. They actually had to have
yeah,
the bag on their back
yeah,
and walk
yeah.
through snow and rain and everything else. And in the evening, I mean, it was just like he came alive. If he had a gig with his band and he used to sing, he played alto sax, tenor, and clarinet, he would come alive and like play all night and get up in the morning and go back to work.
You
So,
mentioned postman. I remember the postman when I was a kid. His name was Manny, and when I got a little older, Manny, besides being a postman, he had a second job. He owned a lawn care and gardening company, and I
oh
ended
my,
up I went to work for Manny doing edging around gardens. So those postmen were part of the community. It was very different.
well, I think also if you want to have a certain lifestyle, you weren't making exactly a fortune
Yeah,
delivering mail.
yeah.
And, he knew that we were going to go to college. My brother wound up with all kinds of scholarships and whatnot to go to Howard. But unfortunately, my dad had to pay for me to go to Howard. So, he had a lot of Italian people that were on his route.
Yeah.
And back in the old country, quote unquote, the postman was like a big deal. It was not easy to
That's
get
right.
the job. So
Right.
at Christmas time, they would all give him envelopes with
With
like at
money.
least $10 in the envelope. And I mean, I'm going back many, many years ago. That was a lot of money.
My
And I'm
mom would
sure,
do that with me. My mom did that with Manny. You're right. They would
yeah,
treat it.
that was a big
Postmen were
sacrifice.
Postman was really an important. Look, you didn't have the internet. Every communication was a newspaper and mail.
Right,
So,
exactly.
so
Exactly.
these postmen, they were important.
Well, for sure. And I remember coming back, after 6 months at Howard, and my dad would have a big envelope for me to pay the rest of my fees and whatnot, for the rest of the year that he had collected from all of his people that he
It's,
delivered mail to.
yeah.
So
So
he he
what kind of music did your dad play?
he had a dance band. So they would play for people to, dance. Like in the Black community, they had these big dances and people would bring what they call a package and put it on the table. And that was all of your liquor. And the wives would make fried chicken and potato salad and what have you. And everybody would put whatever they brought in the middle of the table. And people were just eating themselves silly all night, drinking and dancing and having a wonderful time. So my dad would provide the dance music, and it was all, the dance music of the time. It wasn't hip hop, it wasn't jazz, it wasn't any other form of music other than music that people could dance to. So I
Okay.
would hear my dad rehearsing in the house with his band, in the evening after he came back from work. They didn't do that every week, but maybe a few times a month they would be in there.
So how did you come to play the flute? How did that happen?
Well, that was sort of kismet. Um, in junior high school, we had to take sort of a little silly test. I mean, it was very easy to see if we were capable of being in a music program. And it was just like they would play several notes for us. Is this note higher than the last one? Is it lower? Is it this, that, and the other? I mean, it was like you had to be totally stupid not to hear, is that note, is that note higher than, So, of course, I passed the test. And then, to be fair, in their mind, they lined us up alphabetically. And I was a bit of a tomboy, so I wanted to play drums. And by the time they got to me, all the drums were taken by the boys in the class. And they had a flute and they had a tuba. And I looked at the tuba in the corner of the room, and it was rusty and it was huge. It was bigger than me. I've always been small my whole life, so I was like really tiny. And I looked at that tuba and I said, I don't know what the flute is, but whatever the flute is, I'll take that. And the rest is history, as they say, and then Mel, I was the worst one out of all of the flutists. It must have been, 8 of us. And I couldn't get a sound out of that thing to save my life. And it was embarrassing. So I went to the teacher after school. I've been like this. I've had a big ego my whole life. And I just said, listen, I think his name was Mr. Blumenthal. I have to take this flute home and practice it. Is that possible? Can I sign it out? And, most of the kids weren't interested in doing any extra work. He said, of course you can, So I took the flute home and I've got the mouthpiece and I'm going, and I'm trying to get something out of this. And then just through sheer determination, I finally formulated my own embouchure, which is very particular to me. No one told me how to do it. And as a result of that, I kind of play out of the side of my mouth. I don't have a typical flutist embouchure. So when I got to Howard, I studied with a gentleman from the National Symphony Orchestra, and he looked at me playing. Now, he was happy with my playing, but he said, your embouchure is all wrong. So we're going to just totally revamp that. And here's how I want you to play. And he had me, purse my lips and this perfect thing. And I said, you know what, this isn't going to work because my sounds as good as yours. And I don't know how much better you want my sound to be, but I am not changing my embouchure. It would be like a major overhaul, So
briefly, embouchure.
Pardon me?
Briefly explain embouchure. What are you referring to?
Embouchure is how you hold your mouth for whether it's a trumpet or a reed instrument. It could be a saxophone, a clarinet, a flute. And for the flute, it's obviously like you're trying to get a very thin stream of air to come over the top of the flute, and it splits. Some of it goes over the top and some of it goes into the body of the flute. And that's how you produce your sound. So when I couldn't get a sound, it just drove me totally crazy because the other kids could get something out of the instrument. But, after a few months, of course, I surpassed everybody in the class. And I remember when I went to high school, I wanted to be in the band and the orchestra and, do everything. So the first day of band class, I had a teacher, his name was Albin Braun. I still remember him. And he made me last flute. And I went up to him and I said, wait a minute, you haven't even heard me play. Why are you making me last flute? Now, I was the only Black flutist in the class. So, of course, I took it personally and felt that it was racism. I don't know whether it was or not, but I was not going to have it. So I said, I am not going to be last flute. So what can we do to show you that I know how to play this thing? So he said, okay, you can challenge the person next to you. And then you would be like the first flute of that section. So I did that. And then I kept going up the band, one person at a time. And I wound up next to the first flutist out of all of these flutists. So I was pretty satisfied.
I'm sorry, was this high school?
This is high school.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that was part of the reason I wanted to go to Howard University. I was just really sick of people telling me I couldn't do stuff. I wanted to be a majorette. I wanted to be a cheerleader, and none of the girls would pick me because I'm Black in a pretty much an all-white school. So when I went to Howard, I went crazy. I mean, I did everything. I was in the band, the orchestra, the marching band, the concert band. I became a majorette. I just did, ran for office. So it was the most freeing and wonderful experience in my life up until that point.
No, that's great. So you did pursue the flute when you went to Howard also, right?
Oh, yeah, I did. And I was sort of torn because, as you mentioned, my cookbook, I love to cook. I've loved to cook my entire life. And that emanated from a necessity that my mom used to teach me how to cook at home from her phone. This is when everybody had, what do you call it? Landlines. And she would call me from her office and she'd say, Sherry, I'm not going to get home till 5 o'clock. So I want you to start the dinner. And I'd say, Mom, I don't know how to do that. And she'd say, okay, go in the refrigerator, get these pork chops and get out some flour. Okay, go to the cabinet, get some, and she'd tell me the spices. And she'd explain how I was going to do this, just prep everything. So I wouldn't actually cook it at that point, as a novice. But little by little, she started roping me in and teaching me how to do things so that when she came in, we wouldn't be waiting all night for our dinner. She could just cook whatever it was that I had prepped. So I just, and then when my family enjoyed it, I mean, that was like very gratifying.
Well,
So that stayed with me.
I could do a true confession here, just so you know, and everybody knows too. Back in 1986, I was living in New York, and I decided to go to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, and I'm a certified French chef.
Oh my God, that is incredible!
I love cooking. I cook today. In fact, today I made coq au vin. So,
oh my gosh!
So we have something else in common. I love cooking, and I have all the correct knives and pots and everything in pans.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Well, when we get off the call and the podcast, you're going to have to give me your address because I would like to send you my cookbook.
Oh, I'd love to have it. That would be wonderful.
And it's funny too. A lot of the beginning part of it is tongue in cheek, and it's an erotic cookbook. So it's how to entertain somebody. What you do with them when they come into your house. So a lot of it is funny. And when I was first writing the book, my mom was here in my office with me, typing it up, and on a computer, of course. And she was laughing, and she said, "Where did you learn this?" She couldn't believe it. But I mean, I was a grown woman. I had already graduated from college, and my mom still thought of me, of course, as a little girl. It's like, what are you doing?
Well, later on the show, I want you to tell everybody where they can get a copy of your cookbook and your music. But right now, what I'd like to do is let people hear some of your music. And I want to start off by playing Mr. D's Funky Sweet. Why don't you tell everybody a little about the backstory on that song?
Well, whenever I fall in love with someone, I write a song for them typically.
Okay.
And fell in love with this guy. And I didn't plan to write it, like all of my songs. And I know you're going to probably ask me this later in the show. They come to me. I could be walking around my house. I could be cleaning. I could be getting ready to watch TV. I could be skiing or scuba diving or doing anything. And all of a sudden, a motif comes into my head, which is like, it could be 1 measure, 2 measures, 4 measures, 8 measures, doesn't matter. But the challenge is, how are you going to retain this until you can get somewhere, to write it down or to sing it into a microphone or do something with it. So I've devised, as I was coming along, all kinds of ways. I didn't necessarily want to do what they call solfeggio in school, which is, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and, sit there and try to figure out the notes that are in my head. So I learned how to call my answering machine at home, and sing the
Oh my
beginning part
goodness.
of the song. And then when I got
Great.
home, wherever I was, it would be there, and I could sit down at the piano and transcribe it and then try to figure out the chords.
That's interesting. You mentioned what you about being raised in Queens, New York. I was raised on Long Island, and I went to Queens College for a while, and I met Paul Simon there. He used to play
Oh
there
my
with Art
God.
Garfunkel. Yeah, and
Wow.
Paul would carry around one of those little, probably 6-inch by 3-inch little spiral pads, and he would, if he went into a restaurant and they were banging dishes in the back, and he heard something, he'd just write down notes. And so every artist has a way in which how they create music. It's never the same for any two artists, and for you to do it on Master Machine is really cool.
Well, see, you've got to have the rhythm with it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to try to write down the rhythm and whatnot, by the time you get home, unless you've got perfect pitch, which my keyboard player does, I do not have perfect, or even I might have relative pitch, but to try to write it down, I'm going to lose it, because the first thing I'm afraid of is I've got to retain this until I could either write it down. I'm not going to lose it if I just pick it up, pick the phone up, and call my machine. Like now, of course, we've got these cell phones, and you've got a record button on it. But you could also, call from your cell phone if you needed to do that. But you wouldn't really need to. There's a place there that you can record.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier.
So Mr. D's Funky Suite was about a boyfriend?
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, he's on the recording. I don't know how much of it you're going to play, but he is rapping in French and doing a rap.
Well, let's listen to Sherry Winston's Mr. D's Funky Suite, and then we'll be back for more discussion.
Je suis fou de toi, complètement fou de toi, et pour toujours. Voilà ce que tu me fais. Tu sais que je t'aime de la manière dont tu ressens les choses. C'est toi que j'adore pour toujours. Je suis fou de toi. Voilà ce que tu me fais.
crazy for you forevermore. That's what you do to me. I dream about you, I scheme about you, my honey love. That's what you do for me.
I think we started it over.
I was hoping you were going to realize that and not.
I realized it right away. I caught it. Hey, you have some great comments from people already. Here's
But
one.
before we go into that, I just wanted to mention the two singers were Lori Williams and also Timmy Maya.
Oh, it was great. I've listened to all your tracks way before we even met. That's another thing we can talk about later. Oh yeah. I always loved jazz, so I've listened to everything. But anyway, here's a comment. Hi, Sherry. Nice podcast. This is
now
from
that's
Cheryl.
my friend Cheryl Hill. That's one of my
Okay.
friends who's an opera singer, quite a fabulous one, and we've actually done some concerts together.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, hello, Cheryl. And here's another one. Ned Randolph. I love the intro. It's from a mystery, isn't it? What is that from? Dum 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 dun 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 dun. What is that from? He's right.
It is, and I'm trying to think of how I can explain that, how I wrote that. I don't know that it's so much of a mystery as, it was like a spoof. Let me put it that way. Like if
I thought it was
anything.
from Disney. I thought Disney did that somewhere. Dum 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 dum. I think that's what he's referring to. It also. Here's another comment. This is so cool. What flutist did you listen to growing up? Love the French.
That's a good question. I used to listen to Herbie Mann as a very young woman, and until I heard Hubert Laws for the first time, and then I totally lost my mind because that's like night and day. Hubert used to do things like The Rite of Spring and Bach sonatas, and then he would take off and just, go into a jazz idiom from Bach or whatever, and also from Stravinsky, The Rite of Spring. And when I heard that, it just totally blew in my mind. And that was during the time of albums when you could put an album on and try to copy somebody. And I played.
Did you listen to Rampal also?
Oh, for sure. And also James Galloway.
Oh, I love James Galloway. Oh, my God. Yeah.
And I've been to hear, of course, I haven't heard Rampal in person, but I have heard James Galloway. I think probably at, trying to think, Lincoln Center in New York. But the tone that I have now, I think, is one of my biggest assets. I love my sound. I don't think that there are too many people that sound like me. And I learned that sound by formulating my embouchure to try to copy Jean-Pierre Rampal and
Galloway,
any other classical musician that I heard that played flute.
Yeah. Those were the days when Rampal did that. You talk about classical music. There was Switched on Bach, which was a synthesizer, a Moog synthesizer. It became a best-selling album. There was great music back then, too. Here's another comment. Caroline Bradford. Is that a trumpet in there? Did she hear a trumpet?
No, that's a synthesizer. So it's a keyboard that has been, brings up different sounds and whatnot.
Okay. Here's another comment. Max Thompson. This is so sultry. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Wonderful. Well, I love that song. You know, I really love your music.
Well, thank you,
So,
Mel. It means a lot. I mean, you hear everybody. I mean, when you mention all the artists that have been on your show, I feel so blessed and honored to be amongst some of those fantastic musicians.
yeah, you know, I don't like to brag, but when I had Jeff Beck on my show, he actually played live. Yeah, it was amazing. He made up an
Really?
improvisation on the spot.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
yeah, just genius. Anyway, you belong in that group for sure. So
Thank you, Mel.
you've opened for and performed with a who's who in jazz, which is the most memorable stage presence that you had with whom on the same stage that night, and why? What really impacted you?
That is such an easy question. I would have to say Stevie Wonder. I mean, I've been listening to his music since I was really young. And there's something about his melodies that just go into my heart and just, the love songs, All Is Fair in Love. I mean, I play that on alto flute. And I still get broken up even if I'm practicing that song. And Pastime Paradise is something that I heard on one of his albums and fell in love with it and started copying it. And I just like the rhythm of it and the feeling of it and what it brought out of me. And everything that I've recorded, I really like. I've never been in a position to have a producer over me that says, oh, I don't want you to play that or record that song, and I want you to do this. And I always wanted to be my own executive producer and producer, which I have been on all of my CDs. And I don't know if your audience knows the difference between an executive producer and a producer, which I have been both on all of my CDs. What do you
You
think,
know,
Mel?
it reminds me of Sheryl Crow and Neil Young. Sheryl Crow's been on my show, and Neil Young refused to have anybody tell him what music to play and how to play it, and he turned down many record deals for lots of money.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
Neil Young was one of the first ones out there that said, "I'm my own executive producer. No one tells me what to do." And so did Sheryl Crow. They gave up a lot of very, very lucrative potential contracts on music because they really wanted to control their own music. So what you're saying is wonderful because that's what true artists want to do. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to be able to do what they do. So,
Well,
um,
you know better than anyone else what you can interpret and what you're not going to be able to do in a positive or correct way. And to me, you should stay away from things that you don't really feel and that you don't feel you can execute them properly. So if someone just picked a bunch of songs for me to play, if I didn't relate to the song and couldn't feel it, I really wouldn't want to record it or even perform it live.
well, there's this great story of Rod Stewart. They told him on one of his first album, he needs to have one more song. And he kept pitching a song and they kept saying, oh, that song's horrible, it has no value. And he said, I really want this. And he kept pushing him. He finally put on the album. It turns out it was Maggie May. So much for the intuition of music executives.
Well,
anyway, I'm lucky to have your performance with Stevie. We're going to play we have a video and we can show that whole performance. Is there anything else you want to comment before I play it?
About that recording?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to say that my good friend Debbie Jackson, who is Hal Jackson's widow,
Oh, wow.
found the MP3 of me playing with Stevie Wonder at Hal Jackson's 97th birthday party in New York. And she just found it like a month and a half ago on her computer.
Wow.
And she sent me this email that said, surprise, surprise in the subject line. And when I opened it up, I almost had a heart attack. And it said, this is you playing with Stevie Wonder. I didn't even know it existed. I knew I had played with him and I had photos of him, of playing with him, but I did not have any recording. I didn't even know anyone had recorded it. So I just immediately, I said, oh my God, I've got to do something with this. And I called my creative artist, Pam Rice, who lives in Chicago, and she's done all of my CD covers and she does all of my collateral work and promotional banners and whatever I need for my business. And I said, what can you do with this? Can I send you a bunch of photos, not only of me and Stevie, but of other things? And can you do something with it? And she never says no. She says, of course I can. And she came back with that montage of all of these photos that I had just randomly picked and sent to her. And I thought she did an amazing job with it. I really do. So
That's wonderful.
That's how this came about.
Wonderful. It's a great story too. Let's play for everybody your wonderful work with Stevie Wonder, and it's called Pastime Paradise.
Sherry Winston, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Sherry Winston. Steve Band. Go, Steve. Sherry Winston, Stevie Wonder.
Oh, Sherry, that is amazing. Here are some comments. Let's look. This is from Wendy Silvestri. Oh my God, I want this. It is bad.
Well, I'll tell you, I was more thrilled playing with Stevie Wonder than I was playing at the White House, and that's the God's honest truth.
I don't blame you. I mean, he's on my bucket list with Paul McCartney. I'd love to sit down with both of those guys. Anyway, Charles Stevenson, your harmonics are awesome, Sherry. You held your own with one of the genius musical icons of the 20th century.
Well, thank you so much, Charles. I appreciate that. And matter of fact, speaking of Charles, that was my dad's name.
Oh.
And I wrote a song for him called Chuck's Funk, which is a pretty funky song. But anyway.
Here's another comment, Pat Brett. Amazing, inspiring, invigorating. I love it. Thank you for sharing this with us. A rare find.
That's my good girlfriend, Pat. We hang out a lot together, my golf buddy.
Here's Lou Kerpis. How can I get a copy?
Well, Lou, you can, anyone who's interested in getting any of my music can email me at Sherry Winston Band, B-A-N-D, @gmail. And what I'll do is send you my landline phone number, and then I can use the square on my cell phone to accept the payment of whatever CDs or book or whatever you might want and send it out to you the next day. So that's not a problem. I can also autograph whatever you buy. So that's Sherry Winston Band @gmail.com.
Wonderful.
I would tell you to go to my website, but people have such a problem with that I don't want to aggravate people and have them upset. So this is the cleanest way to do it. And I don't mind any of you having my phone number.
Okay, great. Okay, everybody, you can contact Sherry directly. This is Sarah Kraft. This is better than the original version on Stevie's LP.
Oh my goodness, what a comment. That is so fabulous. Thank you.
Isn't that great? Here's another one. This is Carl Sanders. This made my night. Bravo.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, everybody, so much.
Cheryl Hill. Bravo.
Thank you, Cheryl. Any artist that's out there, whether it's a singer like Cheryl or, my band members, all the thousands of musicians out there, we all suffer silently because we have to sit in our rooms, or I stand when I practice for the most part, and practice by yourself. And it's a lonely endeavor. It really is. And the closest that I can get to, and this is just a tip for any of you out there, is to play live with my TV tracks. And whenever you record, at the very end of the recording, you can have your engineer take you out of the mix and just leave the background. And then you can use that as an MP3 or make it into a CD, whatever you want to do with it. So I have a lot of songs that I've recorded that I like and enjoy playing live. And if a promoter, or I should say a client, cannot afford to maybe fly me somewhere with my whole band or hire a band to play behind me, they can hire me and I can play to my tracks, which is playing to my own records. And that's the way I love to practice at home. I start off, of course, playing some Bach sonatas, some exercises, to keep my fingers moving and keep my embouchure fresh. And then I go to my my recording tracks, my TV tracks, and practice that. And there are some nights, I have a backyard that is just amazing. I'm part of a condo complex, and the whole back is just a total open field. And we have all kinds of animals back there. And it was some kind of giant bird that passed by my window this morning. I have no idea what it was, but it looked like a crane because the wingspan was enormous. And I was down on the floor doing yoga, and I jumped up and ran out to my balcony, and I was trying to see this thing, and I couldn't look around the corner far enough to figure out what kind of bird this was. But a lot of times I'm practicing, I have my sliding glass door open, and I'll hear the birds will come out and they'll start going, beep, beep. And it almost sounds like they're trying to answer me. I don't know if they think I'm a bird or some kind of different species. And I get the warmest feeling in my heart. And it takes me back to many years ago. I played at this place called Mercado in Orlando, and I had opened for Ramsey Lewis and his group. And this gentleman that worked at Disney as a marine biologist, and he was the architect of the Living Seas, which is a 5 million gallon tank with all kinds of fish, mammals, sharks are in
I've
there.
seen that. Yeah.
Incredible. And this guy came to my show, and he approached me afterwards, and he said, "You were talking about being a scuba diver, and you want to go to the Living Seas after your performance. Were you just saying that?" And I said to him, his name was Kim Murphy. I said, "Kim, I never lie on stage. I don't do that to my audience." "No, I want to go to the Living Seas. I'm definitely going to go while I'm here." He said, "Well, I'm the one that put the whole thing together." I couldn't even believe this. It was like, what?
Yeah.
So
Isn't that incredible?
Come and dive at my exhibit. And I said, "Well, Kim, I need my mask, my scuba mask, and I also need my wetsuit. So I'm coming back like in 2 months to play in a small club here. Could I take you up on it like in 2 months, and I'll be better prepared? Because I don't want all of these things floating by me and I can't see them."
Yeah.
So that's what I wound up doing.
That's great.
He had me also play through a hydrophone and into a tank. The music was filtered through this hydrophone. Wow. And there were mammals in there, mostly dolphins. And something happened with the sound of the hydrophone that misfired or something. And these poor animals were not happy. It was like bothering them. And they started running into the side of the pool. So he started waving his hand, stop, something's going on.
That's funny.
It was an amazing experience. It really was.
Well, look, we're starting to run down in time. So here's what I want to do. I want to ask you a quick thought question, and then I want to play the next song so they can hear more of your wonderful music. So here's my thought question for you. If you could collaborate with any composer, musician, vocalist, songwriter, lyricist, or producer, anytime from any century, any place in the world, who would be number one on your bucket list that you want to collaborate with?
I cannot answer that with one name. So I'm going to say Dave Grusin, Bob James, Mozart, and Bach.
Wow. Now, the first name I'm not familiar with. Who was the first one?
Dave Grusin. He was part of the owner of GRP Records, and he did a lot of the soundtracks for movies. If you Google his name, he's done a lot of stuff. And he has a wonderful CD called Mountain. Oh boy, I can't think of the second part of it. But I actually promoted his records when I worked for GRP and Arista Records. They were signed to Arista under Clive Davis.
I don't know him.
Mountain
Tell
Dance.
me about Bob James. Why did you pick Bob James?
I love his music. I mean, when I'm in my office all day and I'm calling clients and doing promotions and whatnot, I have music on all day. So I start off in the morning with classical music, and then around 1 o'clock, I switch over to jazz. And Dave, since I worked for him and promoted his records, I know all about him. And also Bob James, the same thing. I mean, I've known about Bob James and listened to his music my whole life. I played both of their CDs and all of their CDs in my car. So there's something about Dave Grusin that just touches me. I mean, he's got a song that almost got me arrested. This is when I had a convertible, and I'm in my convertible and I'm coming down this hill, and this song comes on. I can't think of the name of it, but it sounded like Bach had come into this century and he was playing this song, and I started singing it at the top of my lungs in this convertible. And the next thing I know, I see these lights and I said, oh my gosh. This policeman stopped me and said, "Miss, did you know you were speeding?" And I said, "Officer," and I started to explain myself. And he put his finger this close to my nose and he said, "I don't want to hear anything from you. You're getting this ticket and that's all it is." I said, "Wow. If you say another word, I'm going to yank you out of that car and I'm going to handcuff you." I was like, whoa.
He apparently didn't like Bach.
But it was Dave Grusin's song.
Yeah, I know.
And it was like a contrapuntal feel. So, which just means there were several things going on at the same time.
What most people don't know, Bob James is definitely one of the most sampled artists ever. He is sampled everywhere, and he was sampled on the original hip hop music and a lot of the rap music. And he was really angry because he wasn't getting credit or any money for it. But a lot of the early hip hop artists all sampled Bob James.
I think he's done some amazing work. He really has.
Yeah. I have a friend who's a bass player. He goes by the name of Big New York. It's Christian DeMasonis, and he's a wonderful bass player. He's had -- hits on Billboard. He wrote a song called Hispanica, and he was talking to a DJ in the UK, and he said, the DJ said, "Who would you like to have featured on your song? It's a great song." And he said, "Yeah, Bob James." And the DJ said, "Oh, I know Bob." Next thing you know, Bob James is on Christian's song. It became Hispanica was a #1 hit.
My goodness.
In jazz, yeah.
See, you never know what you wish for.
No, you don't.
Put it out there in the universe.
Yes. So let's play the third song of the evening. That's what I want to get to, because we're not going to get to the fourth song. We're already at 1 hour. So I just want to play the next song. It's called Love and Marriage. So let's play Love and Marriage, and then we'll come back and you can say a few words about it, and we'll have to just wrap up. Okay?
Okay, fine.
Oh, that's just beautiful. Got some more comments. Everybody, you had a nice audience tonight listening to you. Here's a guy, Salvatore Bolognese. I am part of an Italian jazz band, Hetty and the Jazz Auto Band, and I love your compositions and your incredible flute.
Oh, thank you so much, Salvatore.
Yeah.
Appreciate that coming from another musician.
Yeah. Rodney Charles, you do your arranging, mixing, and mastering. The recording quality is masterful.
I do not do mixing and mastering. I am there for the mixing and help supervise a little bit, but I don't like to step on the toes of the engineer. Although if I totally disagree with, I want more bass or I want more reverb on the flute or whatever, I will put my 2 cents in. I have to because it's my name on the record. And for the most part, if I have written a song, I do all of the arranging in terms of just how I lay out the song. So yes.
Wonderful. Here's Murray Goldstein. I have several of your albums. I think I have 4 of them. I've always loved the flute since Galloway and Rumpole.
Wow. Thank you so much, Murray. Appreciate that.
Well, Sherry, this has been a wonderful evening. And there was a 4th song I wanted to play, but we're running considerably over the hour. So I'm going to have to kind of wrap up. I'd like you to tell everybody where they can become a fan of yours. And I think you should give them your website too. And then where they can get your music and how they can contact you.
Okay. So my website is sherrywinston.com, and you can see my name on the screen. So make sure you spell it correctly, because otherwise you won't get there. And if I would say, do not try to purchase the music from the website, because it's not 100%. You can try if you'd like to. I'm on all of the platforms, Amazon and everybody else who sells CD Baby, who sells music. But you can also be directly in touch with me and get immediate response. And you can email me at sherrywinstonband, B-A-N-D, @gmail.com. And I will answer you back immediately and give you my phone number, my landline. And then when you call me, we can do the selection of what you would like me to send you. I'll autograph it and get your address, get the payment through the Square. If you all know what the Square is, you have that little device that fits in the bottom of your cell phone. And for those of you that have an old cell phone like I do, I don't know what people do now with the Square. I swear to goodness, I don't want to get rid of this phone, but it goes right at the bottom where you would put your charger. And you can swipe the person's credit card, but since I won't have your credit card, you can manually put in their number and then charge it that way. And then you immediately get a copy of what has been charged on your credit card. So I'm not going to Saks Fifth Avenue and buying a mink coat and putting it on your credit card.
A question for you. Do you have a copy of your cookbook you can hold up? Do you have one handy there?
You. Thank you for remembering, Mel.
Here it is. Oh, how lovely. What a lovely looking book. Wonderful.
Thank you. And that's the same lady that did the Stevie Wonder video,
Wow.
Pam Rice.
She's really good. So if anybody wants a copy of your cookbook, how do they do that? Same way?
The same way. And then as a bonus, they get a CD that comes with it at no extra charge. And it's called For Lovers Only. And it's a love CD. It's all mellow music. If you're smart enough to still have a CD player in your car, it's perfect if you're in traffic and people are getting on your nerves and it's like really mellow. But you can also
go ahead.
You can also enjoy the recipes. All the recipes are mine. I have not plagiarized anyone's food. And if you all didn't know it, that Mel is a trained chef from the CIA. And I wish you lived closer because we could collaborate and make some dinner together, which would be incredible.
Definitely.
But I would bow to you, as I'm not a professional chef and I have not gone to the CIA as a chef trainee. I have been to their cafe to eat, which was out of this world.
Yeah.
But if you ever are coming in this direction, I'm not that far from the CIA. So, you know, I mean, it's maybe an hour from my house. It's not as far from where you are, but it could meet you up there.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. Well, look, Sherry, it's been a real pleasure. And, you know, you're just a wonderfully talented musician and obviously a cook also. And I hope we'll have you back on the show again in the future.
And Mel, I just want to say on behalf of myself and all artists, thank you for making this platform available to us. Jazz musicians do not have enough outlets, and this is just spectacular. And thank you to your audience and all of your wonderful comments. It's hard to practice every day. It really is. And when you know that people really appreciate you and appreciate your music, you guys help us. It's like the tennis players at the US Open that tells the audience, thank you for cheering for me. It's the same thing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Just so you know that tonight I have a global audience, and I built an audience over the years for the Power Hour. We have 146,901 people who tuned in during this past hour.
Oh my God, how wonderful.
Yeah, in the past, I've tracked where they come from. They come from France, from India, from Germany, from Australia, from the UK, from Japan, Korea. You know, I get people all over the world, Italy, you know, just tuning in and listening to the show.
Wow,
so
that is amazing.
Then, Friday it goes out in syndication, and it goes out to 16,000 terrestrial and internet stations. They don't have to play my music, my show, but a lot of them do. So by the end of the month, Sherry, you'll have reached probably 3 million people globally.
Oh my gosh. It's such an honor, Mel. Thank you so much for selecting me, and I really appreciate it. And I thank Dion Parson for making this connection in sort of a roundabout way. But I always say that God has his hands in everything, and what's supposed to happen happens. And we were destined to meet each other, even if it's over a podcast.
I believe in 6 degrees of separation. You know, you never know. You know, I met Dion serendipitously also, and Dion Parson has a wonderful show called Sounds of the Diaspora. He has some of the great jazz artists in the world on his show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So tune in to hear Sounds of the Diaspora with Dion Parson. And Sherry, again, thank you so much. You're just a wonderful guest and a wonderful person, and we'll have you back again.
Thank you so much, Mel. God bless you, and take care of yourself. Eat well. That's going to be
you can tell it's not a problem.
Well, some people just eat potato chips and garbage. If you know how to make good food, you're eating very well. And I do the same thing. I mean, I'll make dishes and I'll take pictures of it, because I'll just say, people are not going to believe I'm making this for myself. And if I make a salad or whatever, it's got to be beautiful. Otherwise, I'm not going to eat it. So I'll just take the extra time to make sure everything looks pretty. And you eat with your eyes first, and then you smell the food, and then you taste it. So it's all part of it.
I never go out to eat. I can't afford the kind of food I make.
Well, you don't need to go out if you went to the CIA. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I was there for 6 weeks. It was wonderful.
Wow.
So anyway, you take care, Sherry, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay. Thank you again, Mel. God bless you. God bless your audience. Bye-bye, everybody.
Well, that was Sherry Winston. That was just a wonderful, wonderful night. And I just thank Sherry so much for what she's done for everybody. Next week, I have a terrific guest. I want you to all come and tune in. She is also from Connecticut, similar to Sherry. Her name is Abina Kusin. And Davis is her last name. And she's a phenomenal jazz vocalist. So be sure to tune in next week to hear Abina Kusin Davis, our guest on the Sounds of the Diaspora. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, on the Jazz Confusion Power Hour. So everybody have a wonderful week. I'm Mel Albin. I'm the host and the founder of the Jazz Confusion Power
My name
Hour.
is Dion Parson, and I'm honored to share my passion of music with you, our listening audience, through my cultural heritage.
Things can change for you too. If you want to be brand new, that is absolutely possible.